Of Canadian icon Marshall McLuhan's birth. McLuhan is kind of a big deal for us for his explorations of the power of electronic culture. He was full of fresh ideas that still have resonance more than 40 years later, here now, in this digital age. And to us, that's just cool.
The word cool has a kind of mystical meaning that is not unlike the Hindu idea of detachment. Complete involvement in an action and detachment in action, well, that's cool. Whereas when people are merely involved in action but not detached from the action, that's square, or hot. But most people think of cool as merely detached from action. But the word cool as used in jazz music, and as I use it in its slang sense for the medium, means a medium which uses all of you. It uses all of you, but leaves you detached in the act of using you.
Okay, no one ever said understanding McLuhan would be simple. So electronic media is both all-involving and disengaging. And the thing is, he can be really resonant if you listen to McLuhan with today's world in mind, which is exactly what we're going to do. Each Spark show for the month of May, we're looking at the tech world around us through the lens of McLuhan's Tetrad of media effects, or 4 laws of media. We think it's a cool tool for thinking about digital technology.
That's cool.
So this week, the question is, what does the medium make obsolete?
When a new environment goes around an old one, the old one becomes an art form. And so the new environment that has created much of our strange new kinds of attitudes toward old environments is the new information environment that we have put outside ourselves by electric means.
Well then, Marshall, we'll keep that new information environment in our back pockets as we think about new media and obsolescence. We explore the way our digital world is on the verge of making our sense of touch and maybe even the human brain obsolete. First up, advertising. McLuhan studied advertising as a key to the culture. His 1951 book, The Mechanical Bride, focused on it. But McLuhan's quips about ads, like all advertising advertises advertising, were talking about mass media advertising. I wonder what he'd make of some of the dark corners of today's online marketing. Like, tell me if this ever happens to you. You're online, logged into a social networking site, and seemingly out of nowhere, up pops a message or a friend request from a total stranger.
Wait a minute, who's Rick G?
You think to yourself.
Is that the guy I met at Debbie's barbecue? Maybe?
You squint at the profile picture.
He looks kinda familiar.
So you click through to see the stranger's profile.
Oh yeah, we live in the same city. And he has Mad Men listed as his favorite TV show. What the hey?
And you click to approve the friend request. Now sure, that total stranger could have been the Mad Men loving guy you met at Debbie's barbecue last summer, but it's also possible that he doesn't exist at all. That he's a mirage, a fake account, a carefully crafted online persona created by a marketing company. It's a fairly common technique these days, and there are different names for it. Sometimes it's called stealth marketing, sometimes it's called sock puppeting, because the account is just one of many in an army of fake profiles, all controlled by an unseen hand. And there's a less devious sounding name for it.
I like to call it online viral marketing.
That's Emily. Actually, her name's not really Emily, and we've changed her voice a little bit. Emily has worked as an online viral marketer.
I did this job for a few different companies, and it's been on and off for about the past 5 years.
Emily agreed to come into our studio and give us a rare behind-the-scenes look at how this kind of subtle online persuasion happens. We changed her name and voice because Emily still makes a living in the online world, and revealing her identity could affect her future employment. But really, it's her past jobs that we most wanted to talk to her about. Basically, on and off for 5 years, Emily's job was to create a bunch of fake online profiles and flesh them out so that they seemed like real people.
Each of them would have, dreams in life and things to talk about other than just the service or the product. If the account was that of a photographer, they would tell stories about their pursuits as a photographer, just sort of subtly throwing in different products and services to get the message out there.
Over the years, Emily created a lot of fake profiles.
Well, it added up over time because for each new client, new accounts would be created in different cities around the world, in the scope of between dozens and hundreds of different accounts across different social networks and bulletin boards. That's just from one company, which is not the only company providing services like this.
Emily and her colleagues would then assume these identities and try to befriend as many people as they could. The goal was to create as much buzz as possible about a band or an online video game without coming across as fake or spammy.
To make a persona seem real, we would do things like deliberate typos. If we were in a certain region, we would look at what other people in that region were saying and talking about and what sorts of slang they would use, and we would just try to emulate that. We would talk about mundane things, craving chocolate bars and crushes on boys and whatever else normal people online complain about. Every day we would go out and find, new funny things online to post and make comments on other people's posts and just get involved in the online community.
If you're anything like me, you're probably thinking, that seems like an awful lot of work to promote a band or a web service or a video game, employing teams of people to control hundreds of fake accounts just to get a few positive product mentions out there.
Even in the midst of doing this work, it always seemed a little crazy to me. But there really is something to be said for receiving a message from what seems to be a real individual and not from what is considered a traditional source of advertising, because it adds a certain legitimacy to the product that is very difficult to replicate otherwise.
Now, many social networks have rules that explicitly forbid setting up fake accounts like this, and for viral marketers, that can be a challenge.
For Facebook, for sure, while it used to be really easy to befriend total strangers on Facebook, now there are all sorts of warning messages. Do you actually know this person? If you don't know them and they report you and you try to do this to too many people, then your account gets shut down immediately. An example of something that could be done to overcome that is to say, this is my new account because I didn't want my grandma and parents to see my wild side, and so I'm looking for all new friends, and anything we could come up with to get around that. And the work involves a level of deception that, of course, one would feel conflicted about doing. At the same time, it's a relatively small level of deception. It's not, it's not on the same scale as internet predators, and but in a way they are comparable, just because it is a form of deception and trying to go out there and befriend strangers for ulterior motives. But
Emily told us about one campaign that she worked on that really highlights the strange tension that can happen when an online friendship is based on false premises.
It was a campaign that was running in the fall. We had a Facebook account for somebody, and they lived in a certain city and had a certain history, and among their friends, one of them was having a group Thanksgiving dinner, and we received an invitation to somebody's American Thanksgiving dinner very far away through Facebook. And in a way that was sad, because that was such a nice gesture to make to someone who they really didn't know, and they just wanted to make sure we had somewhere to spend Thanksgiving.
It kind of makes you wonder which of the names on your contact list might not be real, doesn't it?
I think maybe I'm over-skeptical. I just assume that things are online marketing, even when perhaps they aren't. But an example is one client was a band who wanted their song to be well known. And so one of the companies I was working for hired a girl to do a striptease on a video. And she, there was no full nudity. She just went down to like a bikini, and she put on what she said was her favorite song to dance to. And it was, of course, the song from this band. And at the end of it, people went out and tried to promote this video, and it got, lots and lots of views on YouTube, and it's still up there somewhere, and although the promotion is long over. So whenever I see a video that has, clips of a band's music, I always wonder, did someone really choose this song, or is this just some advertising company? And it's really difficult online to know who is who and where the message you're reading is coming from. And even when it seems like it could be, an authentic source, there really isn't a good way of determining, because there are such clever and crafty means and lengths that people will go to mask their identities online.
Emily, which is not her real name, is a former online viral marketer.
If the audience can become involved in the actual process of making the ad, then it's happy. And you know that most people read ads about things they already own. They don't read things to buy them, but feel reassured that they have already bought the right thing. In other words, they get huge information satisfaction from ads, far more than they do from the product itself. What we're advertising is heading is quite simply into a world where the ad will become a substitute for the product, and all the satisfactions will be derived informationally from the ad, and the product will be merely a number in some file somewhere.
Emily's story is just one of the ways social media is used as a marketing tool, and of course, it's not always used in a questionable way. Social media is just the new normal for advertising. Thinking about McLuhan advertising and obsolescence, it's almost like marketing with the participatory many-to-many medium of the internet makes the old broadcasting one-to-many medium of TV ads obsolete. Could we be looking at the death knell of that warhorse, the 30-second TV ad? Not so fast. Grant McLuhan thinks, when it's done right, there's still a place for the venerable old 30-second ad spot.
My name's Grant McLuhan. I'm an anthropologist who studies contemporary culture. I speak and I write books.
Grant also consults with companies on how to connect with where contemporary culture is at. It was a bit of a surprise then when he recently praised the traditional 30-second video ad spot in an age of social media. Since he advises companies on being in touch with the zeitgeist, what would make Grant argue in favor of the past? Well, it all starts with a Volvo ad.
And they're really good. And so they lived in the house.
The ad shows a father picking his child up from some event, we're not told what. He installs her in the back seat of his Volvo. And as he's getting her situated and getting himself into the front seat and driving away, she is proving to be the original chatterbox, just carrying on.
But one day he wanted to change the color of him, just a pretensive, but really...
And she's just reciting, it might be a dream or it's her idea of a poem, or we can't tell what. It's free. It's the freest of free speech. What's nice about it is that we see the dad listening to her as she chatters, and he doesn't give us the big cheesy smile that we associate with lots of advertising. There's just a small kind of grin of pleasure at this as he watches her. He actually hesitates to close the back door because he just doesn't want to do anything to disturb this stream of speech.
It's a beautiful and well-executed ad, to be sure, but what's the power that Grant thinks resides in it?
Well, the long-standing Volvo brand proposition has been safety. The trouble is that as an abstraction, it's a lot like motherhood. Everyone thinks it's a good idea, but it's so abstract and so general that